Welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Danny Cannell. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere on demand, wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for hanging out live. Smash the subscribe, smash the like, come and join us in the chat. Again, subscribers, we might have some treats coming for you here in the next couple of weeks leading up to the season. So make sure that if you are watching this, if you are listening to this, hit the subscribe at youtube.com/cover3 and hit the notifications so you know anytime that we might go live. Getting interactive here on a Thursday. We're going to open up the big old bag of mail. Those of you who have submitted questions, you leave a 5-star review. In that review, you put your question. We'll get to it in a future mailbag episode. And as always, we want to celebrate those of you who hang out with us live, those of you who jump in super early to get those early bird questions in. So we're going to knock out a few right now. This one came in, almost 2 hours before we got started. Shout out to you, Woods. You're about it. Favorite team to win the MAC this year?
Mathematically, I got to go with Toledo. Heart, I'm going Ohio because Ohio is a wagon.
Yeah. Danny?
Toledo. I get you mentioned you dropped a Toledo in here yesterday because you guys play them week 1. I'll go Toledo.
Yeah, just to me, those are the two options. And they played for the MAC championship last year, and I do think there's a drop-off. I think that there is a top tier, and then you start to get down into, what's Northern Illinois going to cook up? What's Miami, Ohio going to cook up? Like that's kind of what I see. I would say one of those two teams would be the ones to keep an eye on.
The MAC has dropped off big time. It wasn't that long ago. Oh, look at Tom pushing back in that Big Ten country.
Well, like, are you saying
minor league Big Ten? But remember it was Northern Illinois was in, PJ Fleck was in West. Like they were getting New Year's 6 invites on the reg, and then all of a sudden, like everything shifted to the American. The American got pilfered, by the Big 12. The MAC has just fallen by the wayside. I feel like the Sun Belt has more momentum than the MAC.
Yeah, power-wise, the MAC is definitely dropping off a little bit. But the fun thing about the MAC is, like, we talk about Toledo being the favorite. We could talk about Ohio, and then there's a drop-off. The thing about the MAC is from year to year, you really have absolutely no idea who's going to be good and who isn't. That's why the league is fun.
I've got a reckless hot take. Can I just go ahead and get it out here 2.5 minutes in? The MAC still hasn't recovered from its shaky attempt to get through 2020. Like, we haven't seen – so – PJ Fleck's like 2016, the Northern Illinois years you're talking about are like 2013. I might be like a year or two off on those, but I think that when they tried to get through 2020, didn't really get a lot of games in, very similar to the Big Ten and the Pac-12. Then in 2021, and maybe we could also say maybe the transfer portal has just crushed the MAC. We see all of Kent State's best players are now at Power 5 conferences right now, Power 5 schools right now.
And their coach
decided to up and leave. So there could be multiple prongs to that. But that was one thing that came to mind, is that basically since the 2020 season, I haven't seen the MAC really register in the same way as the Sun Belt and some of those other G5 conferences.
It certainly didn't help, but I think it was kind of already trending in this direction before 2020, and it just kind of sped the process up more. I think one of the bigger problems the MAC faces, and I've talked about this a little bit, like, the reason Sean Lewis is going from head coach of Kent State to offensive coordinator at Colorado is money-wise, the gap between like the power conferences and what MAC schools are paying their coaches is too significant probably for schools to kind of justify hiring the MAC coach who's making $350,000 and then having to give him like $5 million a year just to be competitive within their own league. So like the access of the MAC to the Big Ten head coaching job or to like an ACC or whatever kind of coaching job isn't quite there anymore, which is making it less attractive to top coaching candidates to take head coaching jobs in the MAC. And I think that plays a role because, like Danny, you mentioned Western Michigan with PJ Fleck. At that point, you go to a MAC school and you're going to end up getting a Big Ten school, and you just don't see that anymore. So you don't see a lot of great coaching candidates taking MAC jobs as their first gig.
That's actually Matt Campbell, Tim Beckman, like the long run seems to have dried up just a little.
Clausen, Dino Babers,
there was the longer
list.
Yeah. Let's do one more early bird. This one came in also almost 2 hours ago. Philly Sports Fanatic says, if North Dakota State came to an FBS conference, what conference would they go to and how much success would they have?
Mountain West makes the most sense, right?
Yeah.
And I think they would compete pretty soon.
Quick. Yeah.
I
mean, I think if you threw them in the Big 12, they'd be pretty competitive pretty quickly. Like, not like winning the league, but I think they could be getting to bowl games within a couple of years pretty quick.
Yeah, when you the Jeff Sagarin's power ratings take all of Division I into consideration, and North Dakota State, which is always one of the top FCS programs, regularly is ranking ahead of dozens of Group of Five programs. And then when things get really bad, like Colorado 2022 1-11 team, that's when you might even see a North Dakota State ahead of them as well. I would say in the Mountain West, they jump in as like the third, fourth, fifth type team. Yeah. And in the Big 12, it might be a little more challenging, I think.
Oh, even for sure. But I don't think
as much culture as they have built up, over the years.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be a doormat in the Big 12.
I know Jordan already put in the chat, we're not going to do realignment talk. I just got to get one thing off my chest. One thing real quick, and then we'll put it to bed. Notre Dame has the balls to come out there and try to get their way pushed through. Are you kidding me? Like, shut your yap and either come in or get out. Like, come on. Well, don't go out because we don't want you to leave us that bad. But if you're not going to jump in with both feet, then keep your mouth shut on what you think the conference should do. And the sympathy card of, this academic institutions of Cal and Stanford, somebody has to look out for them. Give me a break. I'm sorry.
It's not just them, right? I mean, whatever. You've uncorked it. Let's spill it out here. So
apparently there's only 4 or 5 that are pushing back, which I honestly am surprised that
Is it safe to assume Florida State's one of the 4 or 5 pushing back?
Yes.
Yes. But it also tells you, I thought there was a loophole that if you added, it opened up the door for Florida State to leave. No. And it might even, no, that's not true.
I cannot speak to it because I am not on the legal team. Remember,
we did travel to Greensboro to go in the office to unlock the
put in the 3
like
keys.
A Nick Cage meeting. It's like national treasure.
At the same time.
The dang thing.
There's a golden iPad under the desk that then has the document on it. I've seen the 2013 grant of rights. I've not seen the amended 2016 grant of rights that locked it in all the way till 2036. My understanding
is that how your hair went gray? Like when Moses saw the burning bush, you saw the grant of rights and you came out and like.
My understanding is it does not open it up except for, and this has been pitched, that then it changes the legal argument. Like when you're trying to negotiate the settlement, you're just like, look, they are devaluing the ACC by adding Cal and Stanford. You do not have our best interests at heart. We are going to go. Like that's so far. We're still 5 steps from that. You need 12 of 15 with Notre Dame as apparently having a vote here for them to be able to expand. They have not called for a vote because they do not have the votes. I was actually listening to former North Carolina Chancellor Holden Thorpe, who was there through
North Carolina Chancellor name,
who was on the OG podcast with Joe Ovius and Joe Giglio, and he was describing what happened in 2012 and 2013 and the expansion to replace Maryland with Louisville, getting Syracuse and Pitt. And that when you were going around and you were trying to take votes for all these things, and even the amended grant of rights in 2016, that they don't call for a vote unless they know they have the votes. Because the moment that they call for a vote and it gets voted down, it gets leaked to the media and everything goes south. So all these meetings are coming, but there's no votes being taken because they do not have the votes right now for it to happen, which is why ESPN's Pete Thamel, Andrew Adelson are talking about the roadblocks. The reporting is that the conversation is ongoing, and I'm taking myself back to Friday, and I'm wondering if this is negotiation also, where you're trying to, on the ACC and on the Cal and Stanford side, try to figure out what kind of bargain or discount it's going to be, because I cannot imagine that these two schools that they're trying to throw a life raft to in the name of how could we let them fall away right now? If you're doing that, then you've got to be giving them a deal that is going to be advantageous for the other schools. My understanding is it would not be a major bump on the per school payout, but it would not be a loss based on some of the financials that they're talking about. Muted,
Tom.
Oh, wow. I went total Bud here. I say this as a Big Ten fan to all my ACC brethren. Just because it's on sale doesn't mean you have to buy it. That's all you need to think about.
God, Can you talk to my wife?
No, but Tom had the good meme.
It is true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, like why did I buy 96 golf balls? Like
When I
why
already
did
have 50 at home?
take Oregon and Washington? Because they were on sale.
True,
we'll see if anything. I would predict that right now the momentum it's not dead the way that the reporting is, but the momentum is not strong for a Cal and Stanford addition to the ACC.
Just get Tulane and SMU.
Did SMU really come out and say we'll take no money for 4
that's
to
the
5
report.
years?
Like SMU saying, yeah, we're good on that part. We'll just,
I would rather
build up
have
the program.
SMU than the other two.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. So headlines before we hit the break and then start to get into the big old bag of mail. Plus more of your questions. Keep dropping them in the chat. We're continuing to grab them. We'll hit them throughout the show. So there was a memo that was sent out from the Internal Revenue Service indicating some potential problems for some of these NIL operations, forcing Texas A&M to shut down its 12th man plus operation. Is this going to be the beginning of a big sort of reworking of the way that NIL is thrown together? Because the way that I understand it is that, you can talk a donor into making a charitable contribution.
To be a co-host on the Cover 3 Win Totals, SEC, eBay.com.
Hey, that's right. Link is up. Go ahead and get it. That goes to, and you know what? That money goes to the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, not to an NIL fund. All right. I'm feeling a little bit better about that than I would if I'm necessarily going to funnel this to make sure that a wide receiver doesn't hit the transfer portal. Do you see any further crackdown beyond this? It seems like Texas A&M being very much the, flagship of NIL, seems like they're trying to make an example out of this. I don't know what the reverberating effects are going to be of this operation.
I have no idea. I don't know if there's going to be any reverberating effects. I think this is just an instance of there are no rules, so let's try it until somebody tells us we can't. Texas A&M tried it, and the IRS said no. And they said, okay, well, we can't do this. I don't really think it's going to go any further or deeper than that, to be honest with you.
It is a way to launder money to recruit to players. So It is super shady. I know a lot of people have been scared about this potentially happening. I think you will see more collectives either shut down and start it over, and try to find a way that you don't go there. I'll tell you this, it's a heck of a lot easier to go to a booster and say, hey, it's a 501c3. You're going to get a full tax benefit, and those, sure, where do I sign? They're looking to give away money a lot of times. Then it is, you just want $100,000 check and I don't get anything in return. Like, that's going to be a little bit more complicated. But I think you'll also see possibly some consolidation of the collectives as well. Because there's even competition within universities, between some of these collectives. Yeah. And some have purposely set up the for-profit, not-for-profit, which sets them up for whatever way the whole landscape moves. I would guess that the 501c3, the nonprofit NIL collective is probably going to be something we look back on in 5 or 10 years and be like, oh my gosh, can't believe we were doing that.
Yeah. It's very difficult to be able to make the argument of to actually get called to task. Like, all right, so what is the charitable purpose of this organization?
Getting wins for Alabama.
Right. And those charitable organizations, because there are some worthy causes, but they get rankings based on how much of their money is used to go to the actual cause versus staff. And I'm guessing towards stuff like this, which I would consider frivolous. I don't know what the term is for it, but it's not going to truly benefit the people that are supposed to benefit from the nonprofit. So I think that's probably going to crop up as well.
All those sick children will feel better if our team wins. That's what the donation is for.
The topic that has been buzzing around all offseason throughout the conversation of NIL is that I think this does tie back to his donor fatigue, where Texas A&M had figured out a way, like you mentioned, Danny, to be able to pry those dollars out more easily. if this is no longer an issue, then the topic of, I think, donor fatigue will then become a little bit stronger, and then maybe even push us more towards a revenue sharing compensation and things like that. What?
No, that sounds super exciting. I can't wait.
Coming up on the other side. So maybe you've been under a rock. One of our listeners who submitted a question to the big old bag of mail says they've been missing everything from college football all summer. So what were the highlights? What were the songs of the summer, so to speak, in college football? We'll get into that and more next.
3-on-3 action is like overtime all the time. Don't miss 3 Ice on CBS and streaming live on Paramount Plus.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, diving into the big old bag of mail. You leave us a 5-star review, put your question in that review. We'll tackle it in a future mailbag episode. Review goes, awesome pod, great insights, and won't just make up arguments for content. Feels like some dudes chatting about football, and I love it. My question is this. I haven't been keeping up to date with college football this summer and haven't had time to listen to every single podcast from the last few months. What are the main things that happened this summer that I should know as a college football fan going into the season? I saw the crazy realignment crap and something happened at Northwestern. Other than that, what's new?
Do we have like do we have a Spark for Cover 3 listeners? Like Spark Notes or Cliff Notes version?
Danny, I'm so embarrassed. I actually thought about putting together a We Didn't Start the Fire for the summer. Embarrassing congressional hearings.
Did you know there's a remake of that song? I think it was Fall Out Boy remade Billy Joel's.
Is it good?
It's not bad, but he definitely, like, it's current. Like, it goes from 1989 when the song was made until now, and it's all like Tiger Woods instead of Joe DiMaggio. Like, it's very current. Yeah, it's the exact same song, just new lyrics.
I'm happy Fall Out Boy found time between doing anthems for
College
football. Yeah.
I think we've got Post Malone this year.
Yeah. No, but Fall Out Boy's doing NBC's Big Ten.
Oh, okay.
Here comes Saturday night. So what happened this summer? Let's see. I feel like something happened at Northwestern is a very apt description of what happened at Northwestern, because we don't really know with full certainty everything that happened at Northwestern. We just know the results of whatever it was that happened at Northwestern, and everybody knows exactly what happened, or at least wants to pretend they do.
I gotta watch my mouth. Does Greg get fired for not knowing they were making the shirts that the coaches were going to wear? Isn't that his culture that he should be in charge of?
I'm just saying. I don't know. Yeah.
Was it there were a lot of Baylor
Cats
fans.
Against the World was the shirts they were all wearing.
Yeah, but the Baylor fans are coming out like, I'm just going to tell you, because remember the CAB shirts?
Mm-hmm.
Coach Art Browse.
Yeah.
So it's, good luck. It didn't go well for Baylor. I think that's what they're saying in the wake of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
My favorite part of that is everybody's like, how could they wear those shirts with the media there that day? And it's like,
okay, if they don't.
You don't think they do that when they were doing it? Like, that was the point.
So here's what I've got. So I trace it back to April, even though that's not the summer. You think about that's like when spring practice is winding down. The NIL congressional hearings were embarrassing. It was just a pep rally for legislators to get out there and wave pom-poms and talk about their favorite school. And the NCAA got to read off the list that the lobbying crew put together. In May, we had a group of post-spring transfer portal moves. Michigan State lost Peyton Thorne. Michigan State lost Keon Coleman. They end up going to Auburn and Florida State, respectively. Ty Buckner leaves Notre Dame after spring practice, shows up at Alabama, throwing a wrinkle into that quarterback battle. And Bear Alexander leaves the day of the spring game, or at least the day after the spring game from Georgia. Expected to be a major contributor on the defensive line. He transfers to USC in May. I actually pulled this one back up. It's like May, we were talking about Colorado Big 12 talks. Like those were, the reports that they were really starting to heat up a little bit. Things went a little bit dormant. In June, we got the 2024 Big 10 schedule. We're going to need to rework that one. Also in June, we got the 2024 SEC schedule. And also in June, San Diego State tried to leave the Mountain West for the Pac-12, but the Pac-12 didn't have its act together. So a $17 million buyout turned into a $34 million or exit fee turned into a $34 million exit fee. And San Diego State now is just still in the Mountain West. I mean, if the Pac-12 has its act together and San Diego State and they expand to add San Diego State, is the Pac-12 still together? I don't know. Somebody didn't have their homework turned in on time. And then in July, I had Pat Fitzgerald fired. I didn't remember whether the rule changes were official in January or whether that was an off season, but this falls into the part of the question that said, what do I need to know going into the year? The fact that we are not going to be stopping the clock after first downs until the last 2 minutes of half. It'll be interesting to see. We got to see it play out. The experts say it's going to limit, anywhere from 7 to 9 plays.
Mhm.
Danny, did you listen in on the seminar?
Part of it. When I wasn't on air, I listened to it. Yeah.
Because I know that was another topic that they said when they were speaking to us about what's going to happen.
I don't think anybody's talking about that. I think it's kind of flying under the radar because so many other things, and maybe it's not that big of a deal. Maybe we won't notice, but I just wonder if it really does tighten up the games to where it's a nice, clean, much more like the NFL where it's 3 hours. I bet it'll probably be 3:30,
Right.
but instead of 4, which I think is good.
I've heard 7 to 9 plays. I've heard 12 to 15 plays. And ultimately, I think that'll be about 20 minutes,
I
right?
think it'll depend on the teams involved. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the teams involved has also told us whether this thing's going to go 4:15 or 3:10. We get Army Navy wrapped up crisp. That thing kicks off at 3 Eastern time and we're wrapped by 6.
Yeah, I don't want to tip my hand too early here, but I'll probably be taking a lot more unders than usual in the first couple weeks of the season. See if the market's corrected yet.
Just getting tingly. Just thinking about just blind spraying unders just based on the clock rules. That'll be the fastest locks ever. Under, clock rules.
Might see a lot more unders in the 30s.
Oh, I would love it. Anything else from the summer that we want to point out?
No, but go back and use that 1.5 or 2.0 feature on the podcast. Just listen to them fast. You can get through them all. Go listen to all of them.
I listened to all my podcasts on 1.5 speed.
Yeah. The San Diego State storyline just is pretty funny to me looking back, especially with everything that played out. And of course, conference realignment, or that conference realignment crap, as the question asked, is still very much ongoing. All right, let's go to some live questions. This one comes from Corey Jupes, or Corey maybe. What transfer quarterbacks are most likely to make a leap similar to Michael Penix and Bo Nix? The suggestions that they include in the question are Keaton Slovis, of course, at BYU, Brennan Armstrong at NC State, Phil Dracovic at Pitt, Tanner Mordecai at Wisconsin. Who would the Sims be?
Jeff Sims.
Yeah,
Jeff Sims at Nebraska and Hudson Card at Purdue. So either one of those, or is there another one that was not mentioned in the question that you would say you're looking to take a leap?
Would Armstrong technically be a leap, seeing as how he already had the huge year and just kind of fell back last year? I don't think he counts.
That's fair.
Does Mordecai count? Because he was really good at statistically, he was really strong.
Yeah, I think his leap is more just name recognition that people know who he is. I don't know. I think if of these guys, I'm writing Slovis off immediately. I don't think that's there. I think Hudson Card, of the names listed here, has a very good shot simply because, when we've seen Hudson Card, we haven't seen him get a full season to himself yet, but when we have seen him play, he's been pretty productive, and I think he's clearly going to be the number one guy at Purdue. So I think there's a shot there. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to make the leap. I think that McCarthy is already one of the better quarterbacks in the country, but he's kind of like Penix and Nix in that sense. And that
wait, you mean McNamara?
No. J.J. McCarthy, Michigan.
He's not a transfer quarterback.
Oh, my bad. Damn it.
You could say Cade McNamara.
I didn't see the transfer part. I was just trying to think of QBs.
He gave you the opt-out. He gave you the option of Cade McNamara, who would be a good one.
Who would be a good pick. Yeah, I could see Cade McNamara, even though...
I got one for you. And I do think there's a reason why we saw Penix and Nix excel. They were reunited with people that they were familiar with their offense. Brennan Armstrong, duh, like that's the easy one. I think he kind of goes back to that form that he had early with Robert and I. Jack Plummer, I think, is going to have a really good year for Louisville, getting reunited with Braum. They were together at Purdue. He went to Cal and played really good on a bad Cal team. I think he's got a good skill set. I think he's a good option to make a big leap.
Phil Cherkovic is also reuniting with the offensive coordinator, Frank Signetti, who was at Boston College when he had his best season. So that's another example of those, and very similar to the Penix and Nix examples.
I will go with Donovan Smith. He was inconsistent when we seen him, but I think talent-wise, he's got a lot of tools that could be useful if they get harnessed. I think he could have a big year. And then I'll just go homer. Now that I realize it's only transfers we're talking about, Luke Altmaier is going to have a huge year.
I mean,
you guys might have seen this 24/7 sports article. What percentage of Power 5 starting quarterbacks are transfers?
Oh, I would guess at least 60.
60 was,
63%.
Yeah.
How about in the Pac-12? 11 of 12 quarterbacks. Now, this is anytime transfer. So, like Jordan Travis is still considered, he's counted as a transfer, even though, he's Louisville, he's been multiple years. 63% up from 48% a year ago. I just wonder if this is going to continue to be like 75% next year. Like how much further can we go? Probably, because there are so many spots.
Well, Danny, don't you think it's one of the few spots where you can be able to step right in and be able to win the starting job right away? Like,
and there's only one ball to go around, so you can be good and just be stuck behind somebody that's good. The other interesting aspect, if you look at the preseason top 25, it is closer to 75% of the top 25 have a transfer quarterback as the starter right now.
If you're not a top 25 team, it's also probably hard to attract good transfer quarterbacks.
Right.
That's kind of what's weird about Ohio State and Georgia this year. And, we don't typically see
homegrown
guys taking over jobs anymore because the market efficiency has been, well, shoot, let's just find the guy we know is good already and we could bring him in and not take a chance on the unproven guy. So, yeah. All
right. Let's thank you for that question. Here we go. Jaguars fan 97. I left a review with this question a while ago. How different would both programs be viewed if Syracuse had pulled off the Chase Bryce upset in 2018? So 2018, Clemson, Trevor Lawrence gets knocked out of the game against Syracuse. Kelly Bryant has left the team because after he lost the starting job, that was it. So Chase Bryce has to come into the game. Syracuse has a halftime lead. He leads them, on a comeback. They end up winning the game. They end up winning the national championship with a 15-0 record. How would Syracuse be different? I would say maybe more Clemson would be different. I don't know if Syracuse would be wildly different based off that upset, because Syracuse has pulled off big upsets beyond the near upsets that they've had, and those have been significant as well. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, they did beat Clemson when Deshaun Watson got hurt. So I don't think Syracuse changes that much. The Clemson question is pretty interesting because maybe that loss takes them out of the title picture, but they went undefeated. So, I mean, based on what we have seen in the college football playoff era with the way the committee works, if Clemson loses that game and it's, well, Trevor Lawrence got hurt and it's the only loss of the year and they win the ACC, I'm pretty sure they're still getting into the playoff. So I don't know if it ultimately would have changed anything, honestly.
Same. Yeah. All right. Let's go here. This is the question. This question comes up a lot in the big old bag of mail, so I figured we could just address it once again here. How long before the bottom feeder schools that have low brand value get kicked out of conferences? Rutgers, don't even say that V word, Austin.
Right.
Preposterous. Missouri, Boston College, Northwestern, etc. What do we think?
I mean, this is the topic because what are these TV deals now? 6-7 years ish. And when the next time, like, we're not done with conference realignment, and if there's teams that are out there that still want to be a part of the Big Ten or SEC, it's a way to maximize their profit. You want to split less of the pie? Let's cut out some of the fat. And I know, Bud always says somebody has to take the losses, but the losses don't have to be that ugly, so I think there is a chance that we do see more Stanford and Cal's Not anytime in the next couple years, but I think the next time the TV deals are up and there's more conference alignment, I think there is a chance.
Yeah, about probably this time last year, I would have said no chance, but it is with the latest round of realignment. Like, it had already been trending this way, but it is very clear now that the television networks are who are in charge here. And I mean, like, when the idea that Oregon and Washington joined the Big Ten because they were on sale, but then you get the reports that not everybody in the Big Ten was in agreement with adding them, and it still happened, that tells you everything you need to know. And so I think, yeah, when the new TV deals come, because it's always about we have to get more than we got in the last one, and you can't squeeze more teams in to increase the value of it, we will eventually see what we've kind of, it's been hypothesized for a long time. You're going to see this sport break into a kind of like a 65-team Super League. And the idea of Big Ten, ACC, SEC, and all that will probably get pushed aside. And it'll just be the 65 biggest brands we can find, putting them in the league and going from there.
Do you think it's that big? See, I think it could be closer to 40. And I think that's more realistic to get the best possible product. But I also think at the same time, it could have a really, really good brand for a second tier, like the next 24, the next 30, the next 40 programs could be in a new league that you could see that could play for their own title or play for access to the title, of a 12 team.
If you're going to do that, like, just do the promotion relegation thing.
So I am still in the somebody has to lose, because university presidents and who are making these decisions, you're right.
They're not making the decisions
anymore.
I
know. But there still is going to be some pride there, right? Like, no one wants to enter into a world where their football programs are like the NFL and everybody's, close to 500. I mean, they want to be able to win regularly and win big. And I think that those teams have to be there. I think the self-sorting might be when some of these programs decide that they don't want to be a part of the arms race. Like when these programs are like, you know what? We're out. Yeah. And look, sometimes I have to do that. Sometimes I got to pull the ripcord, hanging out with your buddies, and there's going to be one more stop. They're going to take
a lot
a little
of them
bit bigger, and they're like, hey, I got to go. Got to get out.
I think Northwestern is a great example. Like, especially what we saw with Pat Fitzgerald, what we've seen from them. Like, if they're, and it's not to diminish it, but they are more worried about academics. They're more worried about the perception of our school. We're more worried about our reputation than we are about winning football games, which a lot of people would find admirable, but that's not the direction that college football is going to go. And they might say, you know what, we're not comfortable. We want to be an academic institution that doesn't have to pay our players. And that's the other thing I wonder if
that's what I mean by the self-sorting. It's just like whatever the arms race moves to, right? It's just like, I'm done trying to keep up with, if everyone at the top level is trying to keep up with Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State, I don't want to play that game anymore, and that they might step aside. But if they want to be a part and keep taking these losses, I think the big dogs would gladly have a game on the schedule that they know they can chalk up as a W.
I mean, Stanford is the perfect example because and we've talked a lot about it on here, like they have not embraced NIL or the transfer portal, which is pretty much them saying, we're not really comfortable going this direction.
I just had a vision.
Okay.
Picture this. There's two leagues, whether they're 20, 24 teams, 30, whatever. One of them is the ESPN League. One of them is the Fox League. The 20, 24, 30-team leagues, whatever, will get divided into divisions. They will play their own separate seasons. They will have their own separate playoffs, and both will crown a champion. And then after a few years of this, somebody will say, hey, what if we take the champion of each league and we have them play each other to decide who the real champion is in a game, and we'll call it the Super Bowl?
It's this history repeats itself.
You sound so excited about this. When we call
I've always said what we need is a minor league NFL, because history shows that every time you have a minor league NFL, it's great. It makes tons of money and everybody loves it.
Well, you are not going to find you're going to find more people, even if it is a professionalization of the highest levels of college football, your people are still going to be excited based on the same reasons why you're excited about Illinois, right? I mean, there still is that built-in that built-in consumer base, that built-in group of fans that are just going to identify with what they were doing from 18 to 22 years old. and always, continue to rally for that flag and rally for that team.
Well, but these minor league teams that have cropped up have tried to compete with the actual minor leagues, which have been taking place for 75 years. They've just been able to do it for free. Like, we already have it. That's why I don't think it's going to be something that's awful. And that's why I think the other programs have, XFL, UFL, list off the laundry list of leagues that have tried. They can't take down the minor league that's already exists.
The
CFL, the College Football League. Hey, it's Thursday. We got Canadian Football League action coming up tonight on CBS Sports Network. You should definitely go check that out.
Rouge.
Argos.
Coming up on the other side, there have only been 3 programs, 1, 2, 3, who have won a national championship in both the BCS era and in the 4-team college football playoff. We've got a list. Which program has the best chance to join that exclusive club? We'll get into that and more next.
In case you're new here, we're here to make history. We are more than the names on our back. We're the team on the front, the country on our shoulders, the city behind us, and the fire inside us. The best in the world. We got us. We don't just play the world's game. We run it.
Looks like we got actually the person who submitted this is also hanging out. Shout out to you, Tika Frog. Here's what the question says from the big old bag of mail. Love the pod, and you guys do a great job of covering the sport year round, so much so that by the time the TV networks are done talking about mundane pro sports, their college content is miles behind yours. Question. I feel like winning national titles in different eras of college football is important, as postseason formats have changed multiple times over the course of the sport. Only 3 teams have won a BCS title and a 4-team CFP title. That would be Alabama, LSU, and Ohio State. With the 4-team college football playoff era coming to a close this year, which team do you think has the best and worst chance of being added to that list? And I made it easy for you. Here are the eligible teams: Auburn, Florida, Florida State, Miami, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, and USC.
I think it's easy.
Best and worst, you can get both of them right off the top.
Yeah. Best is USC. They have what might be the best player in the league, in the country, at the most important position in Caleb Williams. They also have an easier path than a lot of the other teams on that list, because the Pac-12 is very good, don't get me wrong, but at the top there are other good teams. At the bottom there's a whole lot of dead weight. And then I would say the least in Florida this year. Like, look at their schedule. Florida's not getting through that. Yeah, they're not getting through that without multiple losses. They have no chance to get to playoff. The other team I would consider is Auburn.
For least case.
Yeah, for least case.
And with a similar, like, West. You're staring
Florida
up.
Has to go through Georgia. I'd agree with those. Those jumped out to me as the worst. The best USC, I would say the path is too hard with the Pac-12.
Yeah, I'd say
because
Texas.
It's so top heavy. I would say, you said Texas, Chip?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Texas, they do have Bama, but you can lose that game. And
yeah.
Like,
and even if you win it, then you've got the freebie diving into Big 12 play for the time when, Texas loses to Iowa State or whatever.
Oklahoma, their schedule is so easy.
I know.
Like, they don't have to go through Bama, and they do have to go through Texas, and they've, had the better of that rivalry over recent history. But I wouldn't say them. I would say Texas as well.
We can all agree that the one team, we mentioned Florida and Auburn, the one team that has absolutely no chance to win the national title this year is Tennessee, right? We can all agree on that.
No. Absolutely not. No, I want to see the Joe Milton truthers have their day in the sunshine. If I was to rank them, I would say Texas 1. Then
FSU's got to be up there at the top.
FSU's
right?
Probably maybe Texas, USC, FSU, and then you draw a line. Maybe Tennessee, Oklahoma. Then you draw a line. and then you get into Florida, Auburn, Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how I would tier it out. Did you just get muted by Jordan?
Yeah, I thought this was America. I don't know. Apparently.
I like that because, again, in the see a question is like, is this for this year only? Yes, because then it gets into the 12-team playoff, and it's going to be an entirely new set of expectations in terms of, you know, what it even takes to win a national championship. So it'll take us a little while to get recalibrated once we do that. And, you know, we even heard Greg Sankey talking this week on Paul Feinbaum about how they're interested in reworking the way that bracket is set up.
Can I make a comment on Mr. Sankey's comments on Feinbaum?
Oh, another one. This is like Notre Dame.
Playing the violin for the destruction of the Pac-12.
Who
while
started
pretending
it?
That man didn't take Texas A&M, Missouri, Texas, and Oklahoma from the Big 12. Give me a break.
Thank you. I love Sankey. He saved college football during COVID. But for him to do that and to act like it's everybody else, and this is so sad. What a sad day for college football.
Yeah.
He started.
Why did the Big 12 have to raid the Pac-12 again? Were they losing schools for some reason, Greg? I can't remember.
All right. This next question comes from it's a username on Apple Podcasts, RJG850. Hey guys, love the show. A couple question statements around trophies. First, I'm surprised that Chip, as an ACC guy, didn't lead the ACC Media Day coverage with the reaction to the Louisville and Miami playing for the Howard Schnellenberger Trophy. It is amazing. They had it in Charlotte. It's very cool that they're able to celebrate it. Put Howard Schnellenberger in the College Football Hall of Fame, you cowards. Thoughts on that? Second, I think it's time for the Cover 3 podcast to start a petition for Oregon and Maryland to play each other as annual rivals. Once Oregon joins the Big Ten, you are tasked with coming up with a trophy named for this rivalry based on the apparel giants, as they are each the flagship school. Oregon for Nike, Maryland for Under Armour. Keep up the great work.
Also aquatic animals.
Ducks and terrapins.
So they could play for some
Amphibious.
kind of
They're both
water feature.
Right?
Yeah, they could play for like a water feature or something. Like one of those never-ending fountain thingies that you could just put in, like, your, for Zen purposes.
The battle for the babbling brook.
Yes, perfect.
That actually does sound pretty good.
Yeah, the Maryland and Oregon for the battle for the babbling brook. And I sent along in the rundown, are there any other new rivalry trophies that we can create for some of these new matchups that we have? Washington and Oregon coming to join the picture. Maybe even if you want to throw out a USC or UCLA, there's a whole Wikipedia page just for Big Ten rivalry trophies. We got to add. We need to add some to it.
We need to have jugs, axes, barrels, nails.
This isn't really the question, but I have been hammering like Spartans, Trojans, USC versus Michigan State playing for like a Trojan horse trophy. That just duh. But for like Washington and Oregon, I mean, like a raincoat from Alpine or something. I don't know. Like a tree of some kind. Like, I don't know if maybe Stanford would take umbrage to that, but just like a tree or chainsaw.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is there any, because we had the what do we have, the war on I-4?
Mm-hmm.
Do we do any like something across like I-70 across the
Bigfoot?
country?
We could do a Bigfoot trophy.
Yeah.
For
what? Sponsored by Yeti for Oregon and Washington, because there's always the Bigfoot sightings in the forests up there.
But they already play though, right? I'm trying to get the new ones covered.
Yeah. That's
but
what
they
I
don't
want.
have a trophy though, and now that they're in the Big Ten, they need a trophy.
The civil
conflict. That's really good.
Also, shout out to Sue in the chat for pointing out to Chip that ducks are birds, not amphibians.
I was thinking, listen, I've been watching videos of duck boats in the last couple of days. Fascinating. And it's an amphibian truck is the way that they are presented in these YouTube videos. So yeah, that's my fault on that. But if we go with Huskies, what are our existing dog? Do we have any dogs in the Big Ten right now? Because we got Badgers, we got Wolverines, not dogs.
Not really a dog conference.
Gophers and Ducks can fight.
Yeah.
Gophers and Ducks are a good one.
Who wins in a fight between a gopher and a duck? I'm going with Gopher. Yeah.
Yeah. Gopher. Yeah. Work ethic far exceeds the duck. Ducks just chill, hang out. Oh, Northwest. Wait, hold on.
No, Northwestern's the Wildcats. I don't know.
Bruins, Bears versus Lions. Who are the Lions?
Don't have them.
Hawkeyes. Yeah. The Hawkeyes. A Hawkeye would actually, that in terms of overall mascots in the Big Ten, that's got to be among the most dangerous, right?
Yeah, my backyard will attest to that. The Hawks versus the Ducks. That's a very one-sided battle.
Nittany Lions.
Yeah, the Nittany Lions, but that's more of a puma or a mountain lion than I was thinking lion. It's a large cat. I'll give it that. So yeah, we could be the Huskies and the Nittany Lions. Cats versus dogs. There you go.
Cats versus dogs. Boom. There you go. It's the eternal battle that everybody has gone through. All right. This one, man, I'm so sorry that this is a conference realignment question, but the good news is this one's more of a historical approach. From username Run Woody Run. Best college football podcast out there. Appreciate the work you guys have put in. Haven't missed a show in years. Thank you. Mailbag question. On top of conference realignment, if you could freeze all future conference realignment at any point in time over the history of the sport to be the conference membership structure moving forward indefinitely, what year would you choose? Or do you think, let's just say, what year would you choose? For example, if you choose 2010, Nebraska, Colorado, and Missouri will always remain in the Big 12. TCU and Utah are still in the Mountain West, and the Big 10 still has just 11, with Penn State having joined recently.
We'll go 1995.
1995.
Florida State, #1 in the country. You got Big East still alive with Miami, Virginia Tech. You have a Pac-10 that is actually the Pac-10. You got a Big 12, which still had Nebraska in it. Because I firmly believe, this is how I've described it, because I don't think, we're still going to get great matchups. We're still all going to love college football. But when I think of the golden era of college football, and clearly maybe I'm biased because I was a part of it, I think of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s of the golden era of college football. So I would go back right smack dab in the middle of it.
Do you guys remember the Big West Conference? That existed in the 90s, and I feel like that's just
football conference.
Yeah, the Big West was it was like Idaho, Boise State, Idaho. It was I forgot that existed. That's what conference realignment.
But then, I forget about schools like Utah and TCU who weren't at a Power 5 level yet, that wouldn't have that opportunity if we froze it then. So you can see the.
So I want to get it after 95 because I do like the Big 12. We don't get the Big 12. I think we're still Big 8 back then, and we don't have the addition there. I think you have to go after 1992 because I do like my 12-team SEC, and I think I want to get after 1996, and I can't think of too many realignment moves between 96 and 2004, somewhere in that window. So to your point, while the Big East is still rocking and rolling with that current membership, I think my window would be somewhere between 96 and 2004. That's what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, I'm in that window too. My problem is the power conferences, that is a perfect window to me. Where the conferences that I grew up watching and I care about, but the G5s, which they weren't known as then, but the smaller conferences, I would like to find the sweet spot between the Big West eventually became the Mountain West pretty much, but I'd like to find a sweet spot between the WAC and the Mountain West so that both exist still, and they're both still kind of strong. And can you imagine a time when Utah, TCU, and BYU were all playing in the same conference together? Wouldn't that be crazy? That'd be nuts.
That was when the Big 12 realignment news happened. Somebody just screenshotted an old Mountain West standings that just showed BYU, Utah, and TCU all ranked in the top 25 and all, having great seasons at the same time. If you go back to 1899, as the suggestion was in the chat,
Ivy League was the SEC.
Oh,
right?
Barton was dominating.
You've got to deal with the monster that is the Sewanee Tigers football team.
Oh.
The Sewanee Tigers in 1899 went 12-0 and shut out all but one opponent Their results were 12-0, 32-0, 46-0, 54-0, 12-0, 10-0, 23-0, 34-0, 12-0, 71-0. Then they had a huge matchup against Auburn, 11-10, and then they beat North Carolina 5-0. You don't want to mess with the Sewanee Tigers. Let's go. That's to be a problem, be a big time problem. Yeah, 1931 with the 23.
Does the SEC claim that one?
Probably.
Why? Because
they have.
Sewanee did get into the SEC when they created the SEC, but then they started getting blasted, and then they ended up like Sewanee is the example of a program in a Power 5 conference with a pretty good history that started looking at where things were going and just said, you know what, I'm out. We're out of here. And obviously the University of the South, I believe, as they call themselves, continue to not be playing at the highest levels.
It was funny because when I was doing like research for this question to try to find the year that it was, I forgot that there was a long time where the ACC had 9 teams. And like, I remember the Big Ten had 11 and I forgot the ACC had 9. And it's like, I can't believe we went that long with like conferences having odd numbers of teams in them.
Just my little ACC heart will always remember it because it was the 8-9 play-in game in the ACC tournament.
Yep.
And so like 8-9 play-in game on Thursday night factors into your 4-game Friday for the quarterfinals. Yeah, listen to me getting old. Where it used to be. All right, let's get a couple more live questions. Oh, yeah, this one was also along the lines. Big Ten in the Conference of Rivalry choose what new trophy should be made. For example, creating the Cherry Cup or the Battle for the Big W for Wisconsin or Washington. Don't hate either of those right there. Thank you for that. This one's Big Ten related for everybody that loves the fact that we always talk about the Big Ten. I don't know why you guys think that we don't talk about the Big Ten. If neither Wisconsin or Iowa end up winning the Big Ten West, who would the winner be? Illinois.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You going to make a Minnesota case on here, Dan?
That's what I was thinking about, but I'd probably lean towards Illinois. We did our totals yesterday. I was bigger on Illinois, but
Minnesota's schedule's too tough. But I guess if Wisconsin and Iowa are not winning the division, that could be because Minnesota has beaten them. But I would still go Illinois over Minnesota.
All right. Gregory Baker from the chat asks, what's better, a Power 5 offensive coordinator position or an NFL position coach?
I love that question.
More?
What'd you say?
Which one is paying me more? That's the better job.
Definitely the Power 5 OC, I think, pays you better, right?
Some spots,
sure, in the SEC or Big Ten.
Power 5 OC. I've got to assume if we're going to make this a debate, it's got to be a top tier offensive coordinator job.
Well, here
I think an NFL position coach probably makes what? Well, they're not public, but I would guess 300, 200 or 300.
Oh wow! So then,
I think there's a big disparity. Yeah, I think it's easily but I don't know. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking of like a wide receivers coach, not a co-coordinator or a play caller. Maybe they make more now.
Some college head coaches at the P5 level don't require their coordinators to like recruit, like to go on trips. Like they're for official visits, they have them kind of, help seal the deal with players, or maybe they let them, they go recruit quarterbacks if you're an OC. I think that would be a part of my decision making too. Like if I'm a Power 5 coordinator and I'm making slightly more than an NFL position coach, depending again on the job where I am, if I don't have to be traveling all year round to recruit, I would take the Power 5 OC job.
Same.
Yeah, I think the money's significantly greater. I think the work is significantly greater too, but I'd also rather be a play caller than a position coach. Like I'd rather be the OC than just working with the receivers or just the quarterbacks. I'd want to have that game day responsibility.
See, I feel like I could dig being an NFL position coach in that when when stuff goes wrong, I'm probably not the first one being fired. like if the offense stinks, the coordinator might get fired, and they might just look past the offensive line coach who's working with a terrible offensive line.
Well, along those lines, what came to mind with me is if you are a college position coach or certainly college offensive coordinator, you're still dealing with like knuckleheads. If you are an NFL position coach,
you're still dealing with knuckleheads.
Well, but you're dealing with
grown ass knuckleheads.
You're dealing with like men. You're dealing with people with grown-up problems. And like Jim Harbaugh famously said, one of the things he loves about coaching college is that they don't have any grown-up problems, and you're not dealing with all that, having to do all that baggage. But when trying to communicate, I feel like you might be able to relate a little bit better. When you're just talking to, I mean, Danny, would you say like the quarterbacks coach that you had in the NFL, like when they're talking to you like a peer, right?
Yes, absolutely. And when I was my last couple of years in the Broncos, my quarterback coach was probably 4 years older than me. And I was like 28, 29, 30. And he was probably 34, 35. So you're much closer in age. Like we used to hang out and go grab dinner, like you are much closer. But I also think it is way more of a business working relationship as well. You don't have to babysit. Here's the expectation. You're not going to get punished. Like you're not going to have to, you're going to have to run gassers if you didn't do your home. Like you're just going to get cut. And everybody kind of knows that's the relationship. So you don't have to do as much hand holding.
I think that would be attractive to me from a leadership standpoint.
Much more realistic hours too. So quality of life, even if you're making less.
And you don't have to worry about the kid that you're coaching leaving.
Mm-hmm.
He's under contract. He can't, he can't just bolt.
So I could tell him he sucks if he sucks.
Right. Yeah. How did we just wind up with be like, oh, Power 5 OC makes way more money. And then we get 3 minutes into this, like, man, life's way better as a position coach.
Any NFL coaches are looking to hire guys. The three of us, we're interested. Give us a call. We'll coach your tight ends.
Let's go. Hey, special teams.
Is it true? I saw this coming out with the allegations around Minnesota with PJ Fleck and the cult culture and all that. Is it true they have a rule you're not allowed to punish players with conditioning anymore? Like I thought in like discipline, you can't use conditioning as a form of discipline or punishment. I read that. I could be wrong, but in that report, it came out because I think he was accused of using that. And I was like, I got a massive lawsuit that I could be handled against Florida State because that's all we did. I mean, if I threw a pick, it was going to be 5 stadium steps. And there were games you had 3 picks. That's 15 stadiums. That is impossible to do. If you were late for class, you had to get up at 6:30 and go run. Like that was the only thing they could do to punish you. I want to say it was in there, but I don't think.
I don't know. So this week at a Power 5 program at training camp, fall camp, fights were breaking out. It was like a testy day, and the head coach had the whole team do up downs as punishment for the fighting.
So they still can. They should.
I was just like in front of media too, so it wasn't like some levels of it definitely still exist.
I think you can run laps. It's okay.
Yeah. All right. Next week, SEC win totals, part 1 on Monday, part 2 on Wednesday. If you want to get in on Wednesday's show, jump in on the eBay bid. The auction is live and ongoing. We've got the link in the episode description. Then Thursday of next week, it is win totals locks. Then the next week leads into week 0. Boys, the season is here. I'm fired up to run back another great one with y'all and with everybody hanging out here on the Cover 3 podcast. So you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fernelli. You can follow him at Danny Cannell. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Love you, Uncle Jerry.